Dr. Sarah Hill wrote a book, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. And that's kind of the one-stop shop for this, as far as I can see. She's an evolutionary psychologist. There are some things to be worried about, like when it comes to especially young girls taking hormonal birth control. It can lock in a certain type of protein folding in the brain that predisposes them to anxiety and depression for the rest of their life, even if they then choose to come off. So these formative years of brain development seem to be particularly susceptible to these sorts of drugs.
And what age is that?
Throughout puberty, I think, for girls. So, let's say age 12 to 18 or something like that.
Would it solve it to start birth control, let's say at 25 when a brain's developed?
Well, you would at least, I think, evade that issue, which is this sort of lock-in. Sure. And this isn't for every single case, but there's a risk of that happening. I mean, there's some pretty good evidence that suggests that women on hormonal birth control opt for different types of men. They opt for providers rather than protectors. So they tend to deprioritize the masculinity of the men that they're dating, and they tend to over-optimize for their ability to provide for them. So levels of wealth and academic achievement. One of the things that everybody that's listening to this, if you're in a relationship with a girl who's on birth control, or if you're a girl who's on birth control and you're thinking about getting engaged, come off birth control for 6 months and see if you still love your partner. This sounds so stupid, right? If you want to have, well, we're such a great match and all the rest of it, but your hormones literally create the physics of your system. Like the internal experience is completely dictated, very largely dictated by the hormonal profile that your body is going through. And every girl listening to this knows, because what's it like when it's that time of the month and what's it like when it's not? You know that your mood and the way that you feel wax and wane, but birth control is something that's just this sort of permanent underline that you can almost not remember what it was like before that. So that's something else that people should be concerned about, because there's an awful lot of data from Natural Cycles, I think it's called, which is like a cycle tracking thermometer that you put under your tongue so that you know when you're ovulating and when you're not. As a woman, it links up with your phone and all this stuff. And women who met their partner when they were on birth control and are now off birth control have the same level of sex drive, but much lower levels of attraction to their partner than women who met them when they were off and are now still off. So they're selecting for a type of mate that when they get released from this hormone-induced stupor are not quite what they want. And this can be like, how many relationships have fallen down the pan that someone's gone through 6 years of dating, then they get engaged, then they get married, then let's try and have a kid. And you stop taking birth control and you're like,
Part of me thinks, how many variables are there though? I mean, just getting to the point of, getting married to someone, you've been with them for a long time. At what point does maybe the excitement and mystery wear off at that point? That also contributes to that. Having a child, is that a stressful thing? I think 30% of pregnancies end in a miscarriage. What toll does that take? I think there's so many things coming down on people. It could also be the pressure to have kids after getting married, all the comments from friends and family. So how could we isolate it to just birth control?
Well, that's precisely what Natural Cycles did, right? They've isolated the other variables. My point is that path of engagement, marriage, then come off is very typical, I think. So you have this coinciding of reduction of birth control and then, But that's what Natural Cycles precisely did. How attracted to your partner are you? Like, level of sex drive was the same between women who met when they were on and are now off, and women who met when they were off and are now off. But the level of satisfaction with their sex life was significantly lower, which suggests that there is something about mate selection under the condition of hormonal birth control, which is suboptimal when you then come out of it on the other side, regardless of relationship status, regardless of how long you've been together, regardless of marital, all the rest of the stuff.